Hi there, welcome to Transcona Trailer Sales. Today we'll be walking through your 2020 Starcraft Autumn Ridge. We are just going to start off at the back of the unit. If you notice down below, that's going to be where your spare tire is located. Also located at the back here is going to be the docking station. We're just going to go over a few notes here. Flipping this guy open. This is where your city water is going to be located. It's also going to be where your black tank flush is located. So the way the black tank flush works is you got to have your sewer hose connected, reading the caution sticker first, of course. The sewer hose connected and the black tank valve open. Reason being, if you're pushing pressure inside of that tank and that pressure's got nowhere to go, expand the tank to the point of cracking. So always double checking that you do have your black tank connected and the tank valve open. And then coming back to your city water connection, thread a garden hose in there. You got two different options. You got city or you got tank fill. If you're at on the city setting, that's for if you're at a site with service. Thread a garden hose in there, turn on. It's going to pressurize all those lines without the need to run your water pump. Then if you want to fill the tank, you could just turn that guy to the left and it would automatically start pressurizing the tank. Now, a really cool feature that this unit does have is that isn't the only way you can fill your fresh tank. That's a great way, sure, if you have a city connection, example for a hose. But let's say you're out boondocking or late season camping and you needed to get some fresh water into your tank. They also include this second one where it's not a pressurized system, so you could siphon water in there if you had to. So just keep that in mind. There is two different ways. And the drain for this fresh tank fill will just be right down below this valve here, opens up the flow, allowing it to all pour out. Now coming back to the other side of the unit. Coming to this side of the sewer, the bumper cap, on either side there is a way to open it. Taking this cap off, it's typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside this inside the front compartment, so that's why it's not in there yet. And then in the back corner, you do have your stabilizer or your standard 30 amp twist lock connection. You're just taking note of that notch there. It lines up with this notch on this side. Line that guy up, 8th turn to lock it into place, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do have your standard 30 amp plug-in. Now a lot of campsites should have this. You need to plug right on in. But let's say you have the unit at home or your campsite only has 15 amp service, which is your standard household outlet. We do include that 15 amp park adapter. Keep it in mind whenever you are using it though, you're going down in power. So you won't be able to run your air conditioner realistically. It's just gonna be to run your fridge and your lights. So just keep that in mind whenever you are using it. And then in this corner, as well as all four corners of the unit, you got your stabilizer jacks. The way those guys work is you're gonna hook up your 3/4 inch drive tool to the 3/4 inch drive nut, run this foot down to the ground. Once the foot does contact the ground, just give me another 8/4 turn, snug it up. It's gonna take any bounce or sway you see we have in the unit right now away. That being said, a couple notes about them. They are stabilizing jacks, they aren't leveling jacks. If you try to use them as leveling jacks, you do run the risk of bending them, and the same does go for if you're gonna be running them up or down with an impact. Just keep in mind how much torque you do put on them. Coming a little bit further up ahead, you got your main sewer outlet, taking that cap, twisting it off. You're gonna have your black valve on this side, which is gonna be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. You also have to open this last valve here to open up this is gonna be the first valve you're gonna wanna open. There should be no fluid coming out of there at this point. With your sewer hose connected, then you can empty out this black tank, which is gonna be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you can come behind that with your galley valve. And then of course your gray valve is just right up above this fender skirt. And you're gonna wanna make sure you remember to give that guy a pull as well. Now coming up further ahead, you got your fridge service port, not much here needing to worry about there. And then right at the front, opening up this guy, it's gonna give you access to your front storage compartment, storage all the way through. Then right at the front, you got your battery located inside that box here, and then underneath these two propane tank cover. This propane tank cover is two propane tanks. Typically, you can get what you need done just by loosening the tab, folding that guy back, you get access to both tanks. But for the purpose of video, we'll slide this out of the way. Two 30-pound propane tanks, pretty standard. You got your selector valve on your regulator here with it pointed this way. You're drawing off this tank. If you were to flip that around, you can draw off this tank while this one's getting filled up. Counterclockwise, like any standard barbecue, to open up the flow of propane to the unit. Tongue jack right up front. Inside this side of the compartment, you got this little portable sprayer, which will connect into that back docking station. This is just your standard garden hose thread, so you can thread that into any garden hose end you had at home. And then it does come with a standard starter kit. It's going to come with a 10-foot sewer hose, 15-foot water hose, and some other miscellaneous goodies, including your 15-amp park adapter. Inside the compartment here, you're going to notice that light on. It is just on its own center push button, so you can turn it on and off easily. Coming again a little bit further down, you got your hot water service port. Main thing you need to worry about, given that pressure relief valve pull, that shot of water coming out of there is letting you know that the tank is full and ready to fire up. You got a 1-inch drain bolt right here in case you want to drain the tank completely. Lock that back into place. Fresh water we already went over. You got your 2 low point drain, or 2 standard outlets on the outside. Then you got your furnace exhaust. Now, important note about that, whenever your furnace is running, it's going to be blowing out hot air, so just be mindful of that. Because it's underneath the awning, if you had something in front of it and fired up the furnace, there's a chance that it's probably going to melt or burn it. You got your range hood flap. You're always going to want to make sure that guy is opened up. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes as you make them. And then whenever you're traveling, just trying to remember to snap them back into place. That way you're not allowing any excess dust inside the unit. Now for the best part, to get inside, you're just taking your stairs, pulling them away, folding them down, you're ready to go. That'll allow you to open up your door, leash latch for any sort of animals you had that you wanted to tie up. You got your fire extinguisher on the right, pull the pin and shoot. Up on the wall, it's going to be your kind of main control center area. This one light switch is going to turn on that awning LED, and then you got a light switch that turns on the main living space lights. You got your keys for the unit here located right underneath your sound bar. Up top, you got your monitor panel system. You got your battery. Pushing the button tells you the corresponding level. That seems goes the same for fresh, black, gray, galley. Water heater, turning that on. The water heater is going to try lighting itself 3 times. If on the 3rd try it doesn't light, this DSI fault light is going to stay on. In that case, you do have to turn this off, wait a few seconds, and then try firing it back up. But before we do go over any more propane appliances, it's very important to go over this quickly about the propane. Whenever you turn your propane system off at the front of the unit, it allows air into the lines. Once air makes its way into the lines, it does have to be purged out. Quickest, easiest way to do that is going to be through your stove. I'm going to go over more about the stove once we get there. But before you ever try to go firing up any of your propane stuff after the propane's been off for a while, it's a good idea to fire up the stove, because these will only try lighting themselves a couple times, the water heater or the furnace, whereas the stove, you can run it for as long as you need and run as many cycles as you need. So that's why I do say that. And then you got your awning switch right down below. Pushing and holding that extend button, the awning's going to start making its way out. Once it is at its full extension, you're going to see the back of the metal tube and a little flap hanging down. Now, unfortunately, today we're probably not going to have enough room to get it all the way out, but we'll be able to get it most of the way so that I can show you a couple more features. Now, whenever you have this awning out, it's a good idea. Always make sure you keep an eye on the wind speeds. Once the winds start picking up, you don't want to make sure you bring that guy in. That way you don't run the risk of bending your arms or ripping your fabric. Now, if we're to start, we're going to take any arm front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning head, allowing water to now run off. Now, if you like that angle better, you do just have to push these arms back to straight before you bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And back to, if you like that angle better, because it's going to allow for more shade underneath. You do the same thing with the front arms. Again, you can be pushing those back to straight before you bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And retracting the awning is as simple as pushing down on the button. The awning's going to start rolling its way in, and once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the boulders will automatically cut out. Now, if you had to roll this awning in while it was wet, it isn't the end of the world. However, it's good to remember at your next earliest convenience to roll it back out so you allow it time to dry off. That way you're not accelerating the growth of boulder mildew underneath there. So you'll see that's all done. Now it comes time to your slide out switch. Before you ever run your slide out, it's always a good idea to do a visual check inside and out. The reason I say inside is sometimes things do tend to shift during travel. So it's a good idea to make sure that there's going to be nothing getting stuck in between the wall and the slide out fascia here. And of course, just on the outside, making sure you have enough room for that slide out to go all the way out. And whenever you're running your slide out, it is a good idea to always do full strokes whenever you can. Now we know that's not always possible, so it's not the end of the world if you can. Pushing and holding that button on the slide out is going to start making its way out, and once it does reach its full extension, you're going to hear the motors click, and you can just let off the button. So there you go, you hear that clicking, so you know your slide out's at its full extension. If you want to be real picky, you can stick your hand behind the slide out. You're just gonna wanna make sure you feel that slide out pressed up against that wall. That way you're sealing out water. Now, first things first, we're just gonna go over these sliding doors here. You're gonna have to slide it. Light switch to the bathroom is just on the wall, by the way, and the other switch is gonna do the fan that's inside the shower. These sliding doors, you're gonna notice you got travel straps on them. They are there for a reason. Always making sure that you do have these doors strapped up. That way they can't slide around during travel, causing a bunch of damage. You're gonna have one here, one for the bedroom. Again, just making sure you latch these before you start moving. That way you're not gonna come into an absolute disaster. In the bathroom area, it's a pretty standard bathroom, sink, shower, stuff like that. You got a window right at the back. Of course, you got a vent up top in case you're showering, you wanna evacuate the steam. Now right here, you're gonna have your main GFI plug. 90% of the plugs in this unit are gonna run through this GFI. You got test on the bottom, reset in the middle. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I'd check. Just sometimes they can trip for any reason. Storage all throughout. Now, whenever you're using the storage throughout this unit, just be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring. You're not gonna be wanting to affect any of that. In your slide out space, all the blinds, throughout the whole unit, all the blinds are gonna work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. You got an emergency exit here. You're just having to pull up on the red tabs. It's going to allow that window to swing right out of place, and in which case you can hop out of the unit, hopefully going feet first. But of course, if there is a fire, you're going to want to try to evacuate as quickly as possible by any means. This couch, in case you had some extra guests that were staying with you, folds out into a bed. You just have to pick up on the foot of it. It's going to fold down. Little sectional right beside it. If you pick up at the foot of that, you do get a little bit of storage space down below for your table. Entertainment center, pretty standard. You got your TV. Again, just noticing this travel strap. You're going to want to make sure that's tight and latched whenever you're moving. That way it's not sliding around, causing any damage. Storage all up top, and then of course in this bag, you're going to have any sort of manuals for the unit, service manuals, all sorts of things like that. Down below, you got your sound bar. Pretty self-explanatory. Pretty much just like home, minus the fact of having Zone A and Zone B speakers. Zone A is going to be for the outside. Zone A is going to be for the inside. Zone B is going to be for the outside. USB and aux plugins, of course. Down below, just some more storage. Again, those keys that I've already noted for you. Coming to our left, because this unit is equipped with propane, you got your LP detector right here near the ground. If this guy ever starts going off, don't panic. Just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit. Open up some windows and vents to get some fresh oxygen inside of here. You got your main fuse and breaker panel. Whenever a breaker trips, it'll sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it, and all your corresponding fuses will be on your right. Then you got your stove and your oven. So we already went over a few propane notes already. Now the reason I'm telling you to fire up your stove first thing is because it's the quickest, easiest way. The reason being, once you open up that valve, you can leave it open for as long as you need, and just keep on hitting that igniter until you eventually get a flame like so. And once that's all running, the system is pretty much purged. You should be able to light everything else without an issue. Again, today it fired up really quickly just because I had the system running earlier. Typically, it can take a few minutes, so you do just have to be patient with it. Put a microwave up top, just like home. Whenever you are running your stove, I always recommend running your range fan. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes more as you're making them. To light the oven, it's the same thing as lighting the stove, except the gas source is so much smaller, so it can take even longer to ignite. So just holding that in, just hitting that igniter until eventually you get a pilot down below. Again, you're just having to push in on those that knob. You're seeing right now that this is a prime example of what I mean by it can take a few seconds to get going, sometimes until a few minutes, but again, there you go. You get that flame coming through. Then just turn it up to your desired temperature, and it does fire right on up. Now, a couple notes I didn't go before we fired this stove. It's very important to use safety whenever you are running this. It's gas. So if you turn the gas valve on, always making sure you're hitting that igniter every few seconds. Failure to do so could cause a buildup of gas. If gas started coming through, you didn't notice, you go to hit igniter, it could cause a minor combustion because there was that buildup of gas. And if your face was close by, it could cause you to burn some eyelashes and probably some hair. Again, we're not going to want to do that. It's just making sure you are very safe whenever you're using it. Let's say you come to it, you notice it's been on, and you didn't turn it on, but you don't know how it got on. Whatever you do not hit the igniter. Turn on your range hood, open up all your windows and vents inside the unit, give it a good 20 minutes for it to all dissipate out, and then you can come and try and light your stove again after you are quite comfortable that, of course, all the propane fumes are gone. Not a big deal. Again, just being safe whenever you are using it. Sink, storage all around, pretty self-explanatory. For the cooling system, you got a propane furnace, which is going to move its air through the floor portals you have throughout the unit. And then you have your air conditioner, which is going to move its air through all the ceiling ducting you have throughout the unit. And then, of course, you have a couple different options for methods that you can run it. You can run it with these louvers closed, in which case it'll move its air through the ceiling ducting you have throughout. Or you can open these louvers up, and this is what's called a quick dump. Dumps all its air into the main living space. So whenever you first get to your campsite, I recommend running these guys open, cooling off the main living space. Once the main living space is cool and comfortable, you could start pushing your air throughout, making it more comfortable everywhere else. Thermostat to control all that is just on the wall here. Power button once illuminates itself. Push that power button again. You're going to go into the fan mode. I always recommend running it auto because it's the best option to run it on. You can run the fan on either high or low, but the fan on the air conditioner is going to run full time regardless of what setting you have it on at that point, including the furnace. So if you go to fire up the furnace and you hear your air conditioner kick in, that's not supposed to happen. So just go back and make sure you turn that fan back into the auto mode. Now, if you just wanted to use the fan to move air around, you could do so if it wasn't that cold of a day. But typically, people are then going to go into your different modes. So right off the bat, you go straight into cool, up and down at any time to change your set temperature. Again, I recommend leaving it in auto because if the thermostat's set to 20 degrees, it's only going to kick in that air conditioner whenever you get above that. One more time, that's going to take off the air conditioner and fire up the furnace. The furnace is going to move all its air through the floor portals you have. Air conditioning is through the ceiling. Power button again, turn it all off. Once you do fire up the furnace, it does run for an additional 3 minutes after you turn off the thermostat, just to allow itself time to cool down, and that is regardless of whether it fires up or not. You got your Dometic fridge, freezer combo. For the temperature control, there it is right up top here. Power button to turn it on. Whenever you're in auto, it's going to first search for AC power. Once AC power was taken away, it would automatically switch over to gas. Now, it will only fire on gas if you, of course, had the gas on. If you didn't have the gas on, you're going to hear it beeping. It's going to whine at you, so you'll know right away. But again, making sure you're purged before you try and fire this up, because again, this will only try lighting itself a few times. Let's say you wanted to run solely on gas because you were out boondocking. You just have to push the auto button, and it'll automatically switch over to gas and stay on gas. Temperature control right up top. 5 is going to be the coldest setting, 1 is going to be the warmest setting. Anywhere in between is good. Turning that off. Another note, let's say, your significant other told you, hey, make sure you turn on the fridge in the RV the night before. You totally forgot. It's the next morning, you guys are leaving right away. The fastest way to get this the coldest is leaving it on number 5. Once you're comfortable with how cold it's gotten inside, you can then turn it down. But if you leave it on 5, it's going to get the coldest the fastest, and it's also going to get colder faster if you run it on gas versus AC power. Storage all throughout, and then coming into the bedroom, the lights are just going to be, one light up top is going to be on its own center push button, and then you have another reading light right above the bed. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bedroom. Up on the wall here, you're going to have your TV mounting bracket. There's a little reinforcement piece of wood back here for you to screw into. Just keeping in mind the size of the TV you'll be able to run. Coax and power cords up top. Another fire exit over here. You just have to pull on the tab. The screen's going to pop right away, and then you can take this handle, push it out, hop on out of the unit. Another note, opening up this door here, you got a couple false panels there. Removing the one screw will allow you to move one of those panels out of the way. That's going to give you access to the back of a water heater for winterization. The water pump is also stashed back there, so you can get access to that bypass hose. Now that is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.